8 out of every 10 men who attempt Navy SEAL training will quit or fail before they ever earn the right to call themselves one. And the man who survives that ladder is not, by the end of this video, the highest paid person in his own unit. Not even close. This is the ladder of American Special Operations, public salaries, hidden bonuses, and one final rank that does not officially exist on any pay chart the government publishes. By the end of this video, you will know exactly who earns the most in this world. And it is not the general with the stars on his shoulder. Keep that promise in mind. We are coming back to it. Because at every rank of this world, there is a number, and behind every number, a level of risk the number never quite covers. And unlike almost every other job on this channel, the ultimate cost of this ladder is sometimes paid in a single afternoon, not across a career of small deductions. Today we climb it, rung by rung. The candidate, the operator, the chief, the officer, the general, and then we open the books on the man who left it all behind and got richer for it. This is Rank and Ledger. In today's episode, American Special Operations, rank by rank. What each level is really paid, what the risk actually costs, and who earns the real fortune once the uniform comes off. We start before the uniform is even earned, with the men who are paid almost nothing to be broken on purpose. One thing before we climb. If you want to see who really gets paid in worlds like this, empires, armies, cartels, subscribe now and leave a like. It genuinely decides whether this channel survives. A young recruit entering the pipeline is paid as an ordinary junior sailor or soldier, base, pay around $29,000 a year. He is not a SEAL yet. He is not a Green Beret yet. He is simply a young man who volunteered to find out what he is made of. And for that base pay, he will be pushed to the edge of what a human body can survive. Cold water immersion. Sleep deprivation measured in single-digit hours across an entire week. The training is designed deliberately to make men quit. The most notorious stretch of it runs non-stop for roughly 5.5 days. Cold, wet, exhausted, timed drills back-to-back with almost no rest at all. It is designed to simulate the chaos of real combat when a body has nothing left to give. And it works. Across the roughest phases of selection, attrition runs as high as 70 to 85%. Out of every 10 men who start, as few as 1 or 2 ever finish. Officers, oddly, survive at a noticeably higher rate than enlisted candidates, partly because they arrive older, more prepared, and already screened once by a different selection process entirely. The ladder is unforgiving to everyone, but it is not equally unforgiving. The bell they ring to quit is the loudest sound on that beach, and every single man who has ever heard it ring beside him remembers exactly how close he came to reaching for the rope himself. The men who survive that bell earn a new name, and a whole new pay grid built on top of it. Here is your first question, and answer it honestly in the comments below. For a base salary of $29,000, would you volunteer for a selection process built specifically to break you? Tell me below. The ones who survive earn a new name, a new badge, and a real place on the ladder. Welcome to the operator. A young operator, typically a junior petty officer or corporal by now, earns a base salary in the mid-$30,000 to low $40,000 range. Still modest? But now the special pay begins to stack on top of it. Jump pay up to $225 a month for the most dangerous freefall qualifications. Dive pay up to $240. Demolition pay another $150. Each one a small separate acknowledgement that a part of his job could kill him. And there is a real signing incentive too. An operator who completes advanced qualification can be paid a lump bonus of around $40,000. A genuine reward for surviving what most men never even attempt. Add it all together, and a young operator might clear $60,000 to $70,000 in his first full year on a team. Good money for a man in his early 20s? Nowhere near what the risk on his contract actually implies. And that number assumes he stays healthy enough to collect every special pay on the list, miss a jump cycle from an injury, and the few $100s a month tied to it simply disappears from his next paycheck, no questions asked. Because the job itself does not appear on the pay stub at all. Deployments to places the public never hears the details of, months away from a family who cannot be told where he is or what he is doing there. Divorce rates among operators run well above the general military average. The job does not just ask for his body, it asks his marriage to survive silence, and not every marriage does. Above that quiet strain sits the man whose whole job is absorbing it for everyone below him. One rung up sits the man who no longer just survives the missions, he runs them. A senior enlisted operator, a chief with a decade or more in, earns a base salary around $57,000. But once his special pays, housing allowance and benefits are added, His true total compensation reaches roughly $124,000 a year. And if that number already sounds low for the risk, brace yourself, because the ranks above him are about to reveal something far stranger than a modest paycheck. And that pay stops the moment the body gives out. A medical retirement for a wrecked spine or a traumatic brain injury is rated on a disability scale. And even a high rating rarely replaces the total income a healthy career would have paid out. And the chief carries a second job nobody puts on the org chart. He is the human shock absorber between the officers who plan the mission and the young operators who have to execute it, translating orders written in a briefing room into instructions that keep men alive on the ground. $124,000 for a man who has spent 15 or 20 years absorbing the physical cost of the job the recruiter never mentions. Blown out knees, compressed spines from thousands of parachute landings, hearing damage that never fully heals. He trains the operators below him and briefs the officers above him. He is the institutional memory of the entire unit, and every single one of his superiors quietly knows it. Above the chief sits the man whose name goes on the mission plan, even when the chief wrote most of it. A senior officer commanding a special operations unit, a commander with roughly 18 years in, earns a base salary around $125,000 a year before his own special pays are added on top. To reach that chair at all, an officer has typically spent close to 2 decades inside the community, passing selection courses of his own and surviving the same deployments as the men beneath him before he ever runs a headquarters. But officers famously spend less time in direct combat and more time in the meetings and politics that decide whether an operation is approved at all. His signature carries the mission. His command carries the responsibility if it fails. And when something goes wrong on a mission he approved, it is his name that appears in the after-action report. His career that absorbs the political fallout long after the operators involved have moved on to the next rotation. Pause the video here and guess. What does the general who commands the entire special operations community actually earn in a year? Type your guess in the comments before I tell you. And remember the promise from the opening. He is not the top of this ladder, not even close. I will wait. Locked in your guess? Here it comes. A 1-star general overseeing a slice of the special operations community earns a base salary of roughly $138,000 a year. A 3-star, commanding the entire enterprise, tops out around $228,000. And climbing that far is its own filter? Fewer than 1 in 100 officers who enter this world will ever wear a general's star. Most spend an entire career at the rank below it, running real operations and quietly training the very officers who will one day outrank them. $228,000 after 30 years of service, hundreds of decisions that cost lives if they go wrong, and total command of the most elite fighting force on Earth. If you guessed higher, you are not alone. Most people do. It is worth saying plainly that $228,000 is roughly what a solid mid-level manager earns at a large American company for a job that carries none of the funerals he has stood through. Here is your second question for the comments. A 3-star general earning $228,000 commands thousands of the most highly trained soldiers on the planet. Is that number too low? Or is command itself the only real payment that matters at this altitude? Tell me below. So the general sits at the top of the official chart. And yet, remember the promise? He is not the richest man connected to this world. Not close. To find him, we have to follow the men who take off the uniform entirely. Because outside the chain of command entirely operates a private industry that pays by an entirely different ledger. A retiring operator, especially one from the most selective units, is one of the most valuable hires a private security firm can make. He already has the training a corporation would otherwise spend years and millions of dollars building from scratch. And it is not only operators who walk through that door. Retired generals and colonels sit on the boards of the very defense companies that build the equipment they once approved budgets for, paid consulting fees that dwarf anything on their old military salary. As a private contractor, that same skill set can command anywhere from around $100,000 to well over $450,000 a year, depending on the risk of the contract and the part of the world it is performed in. And the demand for that skill set only grows. Corporations, film productions, foreign governments, and humanitarian organizations working in unstable regions all quietly compete for the same small pool of men who survived that beach and that bell. Supply is limited by design. Price follows. Some leave for 6-figure security contracts. Others simply become the consultants that advise the very same government agencies on how the next generation of operators should be trained, paid handsomely to hand back, as private advice, the exact expertise the military once gave them for a fraction of the price. Read that top figure again. $450,000, nearly double what the 3-star general commanding the entire special operations community is paid. For a man doing work that, in many cases, looks almost identical from the ground, the difference is not the danger, it is the ledger. Inside the uniform, pay is set by law, by rank, by a chart anyone can look up on a government website. Outside it, pay is set by a client with a budget and a problem, and no rank chart at all. The government spent years and enormous sums training that man for free, effectively subsidizing the very skill set that a private company now rents back to the highest bidder. The military builds the asset. The private sector cashes the check. None of this is illegal. None of it is even hidden. It is simply how the ledger has always worked in every world we have climbed on this channel. The institution absorbs the risk and the training cost. The private market absorbs the profit. So here is the final ledger of American Special Operations. The candidate is paid almost nothing to be broken on purpose, and most of them do not survive the process at all. The operator earns real money for real risk, but never quite enough to match it. The chief earns more and pays for it in his knees, his spine, and his hearing. The officer commands the mission and shoulders the blame if it fails. The general commands the most elite force on the planet for less than many mid-level bankers make in New York, and the man who simply takes off the uniform can, quite legally, out-earn every single rank above him. So, the ladder of American Special Operations does not end at the general's stars. It ends at the parking lot, where a man in plain clothes gets into an unmarked car and drives toward a paycheck the uniform could never legally offer him. So, here is your last question, and it is the one that matters most. If the free market pays more for exactly the same skill and risk that a government trains for free, is that a broken system? Or is it simply the last honest price tag on the whole ladder? Tell me below. I read every comment. Next time on Rank and Ledger, we climb one of two ladders and you decide which, the CIA or a hedge fund? Vote in the comments. And if this story held you, do the two things that keep this channel climbing? Leave a like and subscribe. The ladder continues.